Welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast with Joe Pine, author of The Transformation Economy. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the book behind his desk. I'm using it as a crutch so that I actually say the name of the book correctly instead of all the creative adaptations.
You have had a few.
I have. It's my thing now. It's cute. It's what we do. And Dave Norton, author of a new book that you're going to hear about today. And me, author of the forthcoming book, Courage Capital, It's Not Too Late to Do Big, Brave Things, coming from Hachette in 2027. So
Sure, you got that one right.
I got that one right. What do you know? So today we're going to talk about Dave's new book, which Joe and I are just really excited to do. You're hearing this first. The book released yesterday on Amazon and on Dave's Substack, The Experience Strategist. And we're going to talk about the what, the why now, the how, and talk about how to get the most out of this book for you as the reader, because you're the audience. He wrote this book, especially for you, friends. So let's get into it. Dave, let's talk about the why now first. Why was this book so vital to write at this time?
Yeah, so I wrote a book back in 2015 called Digital Context 2.0.
It's right there.
And there it is. There it is. I can see it right behind there. And at the time, I made the argument that what we would see is that context would be the way in which all of these different tools and technologies and channels and solutions would kind of come together and support the consumer, the end user, the human behind everything. And it didn't quite happen the way that I imagined it. I imagined that a lot of companies out there would find positive ways to share data between using APIs to make it so that the consumer could do different types of things. And there were all kinds of problems with that. Like companies didn't want to share. It took forever. It took a very long time. And then all of a sudden, it was like crazy time when generative AI shows up, and this amazing technology, artificial intelligence, is able to look at all this raw data and make sense of it. And consumers, people are just creating all of this contextual information, bringing it in. It's actually the engine that makes LLMs work. So I just felt like I needed to go back and look at my original premise. What was it that I was originally saying around context? Why was context important? And the more I dove into it, the more I realized, oh my goodness, we're at a very difficult juncture here. Because what most companies are talking about when they talk about context and using artificial intelligence is we're going to extract as much context from the consumer as we possibly can, from people in general as we possibly can, and then we're going to use it to sell to people. That's basically what we're going to do. Now, over the last couple of years, or last 10 years, we, the three of us, and our colleagues in the collaboratives and the people at Stone Mantle, we've been studying different aspects of artificial intelligence and its impact on transformation and its impact on behavior change and so forth. So I had kind of a rich body of information to kind of draw from that said, no, it's not just about the extraction. It's about the enabling of the customer. And that's why I felt like I needed to write this particular book now, is to kind of say, maybe put down a milestone or a marker that says, if we're not careful, we're going to head in the wrong direction. And we need to head towards really supporting the consumer, supporting the individual, helping the individual to accomplish what the individual really wants to accomplish.
Yeah, Dave, I was very interested in how you contrasted what AI companies think of context, which is the model's context, versus how we need to think about context, which is the customers, the individual's context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in the research, I had forgotten how important, when I started doing the research for this, I'd forgotten how important context really is to Anthropic, to ChatGPT. It literally is the engine that makes the model work. But that's how they see it as well. And I guess they should. They're software companies that are building a base platform. But it seems like there's so much that's just missing in the way that people are starting to think about context.
Agree. And I think fundamentally, one of the points that you make that I was really attracted to is this idea that the current paradigm is we're going to jump in and do things for you. Just sit back and be like the movie Wall-E and lie on your inner tube and float around and feel joy.
Right.
And I fundamentally disagree with that from a humanistic perspective, from a values perspective, from a future optimism perspective. And I also just think culturally it's misaligned with where we are. And I think the transformation economy really points us in that direction, because what it says is, no, we don't want to be victims to systems. And so if we see context as a system that is absorbing everyone else's ideas and information and then feeding them back to you, it leaves the human and the individual out of the picture. And I think what we want culturally right now, what we're demanding is, wait, no, I'm tired of blaming everything on systems, which I think is a pervasive narrative that we're hearing more and more right now. I'm just so sick of reading about systems blame. And I feel like as I'm writing self-help and reading so much self-help, I'm like, can we just say, yes, there are a lot of systems that are making this really, really hard. And we as individuals are not responsible for the systems and it sucks, and move on and figure out how we take our agency and become empowered, which is what I hear in what you're saying here, which is, yeah, the system has to be redesigned to support your needs and to empower you to do what you care about in the way that you care about and the way that fits your life and values.
Absolutely. It's like we almost forgot that humans are intelligent too. Like it's not just
Snap. Okay,
it's
there's
not
the quote of the episode.
Right. We're intelligent. We're actually the source of all of the context that is being fed into the technology. And the reason why we generate it is so that we can make meaning, so that we can build stuff, so that we can become better, which we've talked about on a regular basis. This book doesn't really cover superpowers. I'm going to leave that for another book in the future and talk a little bit about it. But really, it's kind of the basis for it. I think what I was trying to do in this book was help a company make a paradigm shift away from kind of the old way of thinking about the customer to a new way of thinking about the customer. And if I can just accomplish that, then we're good. We're good, right?
Before we go any further, tell the audience a little about the book. Joe and I've had an opportunity to read the galley, but just introduce the title, the major construct, and the shape of what the reader's going to get out of this.
So it's called Human Context, How Intelligent Companies Build Customers. And it has 4 major frameworks in it. The first framework is one that Joe and I built back in 2017, and we just got it published in HBR in 2023, called the Stupid, Dumb, Smart, Genius Framework. Okay.
Although the HBR doesn't call it that.
That's right. They did not allow us to use the words stupid and dumb, too provocative. We can talk about that if we want to. But what it does is it helps companies to think about, okay, why are we using intelligence? And when should we be using intelligence? Dumb is not a pejorative in this the framework. It just simply means there is no context. There's no data that's being collected.
The context cannot speak, which is why dumb is a good word for it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's nothing happening there. Smart, there's an iterative kind of sense and response and so forth. We'll go deeper around each of these. Genius is what we're imagining, feeling, beginning to really understand from generative AI that, this is actually a possibility. When we wrote about it, we were like kind of future forecasting, but now it's a reality. And then stupid is when you use intelligence adversarially. against the consumer in some way, shape, or form. So
and
it is,
get in the way of what they want to get done.
yeah. Or you
Waste
might
of
have,
time.
or you might have motives that are nefarious as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that could go into that. So that's one framework. The next framework that we talk about is situational markets. Again, building on some of the thinking that we've been doing in the collaboratives. So I'm convinced that companies are struggling with how to think about their markets in this new world. Okay. And if they aren't, they should be, and they will be in the future, because personalization, customization, we now customize to the individual. It's just a given. The individual can customize for themselves. It's just a given. What people have in common is they find themselves in common situations. So if companies can understand situations and they can support situations, they're already thinking way ahead in terms of context. They've made the paradigm shift away from who is the target demographic, that kind of a thing. So that's the second framework. Right.
You have to explain your boo in a second, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. The third framework is modes, which I had in the original book and I've been talking about probably ad nauseum. Those of you that have listened to us, you know. But in this book, we're talking about how modes work with context. Modes tell you the mindset and the set of behaviors that the individual has. So combined with the situation, now you know a tremendous amount and you have the ability to support them. And then the last framework is about time value. So it's about how do you measure a dumb experience using time value? How do you measure a smart experience using time value? How do you measure a genius experience using time value? What is time well saved? What is time well spent? What is time well invested? So we're trying to help people to think about how to measure differently, how to think about their customer differently, how to think about behavior differently, so that they can really tap into and support what context, the power of these contextual tools.
So before we talk about how you want folks to use this book and how you imagine the book coming to life in individual companies.
Yeah, demographics are so bad. Demographics tell you nothing. I mean, nothing about an individual person and how you might provide them with value, in particular, how you might customize to them. We always talk about these huge demographic changes, and all of them are simply shifts in a myriad of bell curves. And everyone exhibited something for those bell curves, particularly when you look at situations, right? That situations can cross demographics so easily. I remember a thing, probably a decade or more ago about demographics that talked about these two individuals, both born the same day in the same town, and I think in the same hospital, went to the same or similar schools, and one grew up to be Prince Charles and the other Ozzy Osbourne, right? I mean, the demographics tell you.
Is that true?
I distinctly remember reading it, right? I'd have to verify it.
I've got to go find this. This is
all right,
amazing.
You got to do that. Yes.
They're both princes.
I
remember that.
Right.
One's
a king. One's a king now.
One's a king now.
One's a
the other's the king of
fighter.
Okay. Sorry, you were saying something more important.
No, I think just to understand, you just have to go to way past demographics, and I'll mention personas as well in the same way. A calling a person a persona, right, is an injustice, right? We are not personas, as you said. We are not victims of systems. We are human beings with agency, and every human being is unique, and you need to understand that uniqueness. We may exhibit some elements of a persona in some situations, in some modes that we're in, right? But we are never a persona, and to think that somebody is doing injustice both to them and to your capabilities.
I mean, the truth is, the real reason for personas was so that the people designing products could remember there were humans who were going to use them.
And hopefully it did serve that purpose.
I think like in that regard, it was useful and probably is still useful. Right. Because it's so easy to forget when you're operating within the system of a company.
of a business model. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about how you want individual companies to use this. You've really set it up through the lens of an experience.
So I'm going to just say straight up, and I'm unapologetic about it. I have built this book using AI and all of the workbooks that are associated with it, and all of the materials. There's a whole body of material that goes along with the book. So the idea is that the book introduces the concepts. The workbooks are designed, the feedback that I got from people with the first book was, I really like what you're talking about, but how does it apply to my industry? So I've written 10 industry workbooks. They have they have examples of data from the industries. They show you how to do market sizing. They show the modes, they show the mode maps and so forth. That level of detail is not in the book. I think it would be too much, obviously, but they're in the workbooks. And there's a case study that goes along with it. It's a hypothetical type of thing. What I really want is for companies to spend time actually working with the new framework, trying to say, okay, wow, if we really did move away from the way that we think about our target audience and we started sizing up situations, what would be the steps that we would have to take? How would we do it? That level of information is found in the workbooks themselves. And then the book kind of explains the why. It walks through why you need to do this. And the audiobook will be out hopefully here soon, because I know a lot of our listeners, they're not reading.
And your podcast host.
That's right. That's right. Are you voicing that yourself, or is it AI generated, or is it your AI voice?
Yeah, right, exactly. I for a second there thought, oh, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And then I used ACX's, or it's the Amazon system, to send it out to different people. And I heard some of the people that were actually experts at this, and I was like totally intimidated. And I said, nah, I'm going to hire that woman. She's really good. Right. So I'm excited about it. I listened to her do chapter 1 today, and I was like, wow, you make me sound really good.
Well done.
In my book, Dave, I did the opening reflection and the closing preparation, plus opening preparation, closing reflection, plus a little kicker that only is available on the audiobook. But then let the professionals take it. It's a arduous task to be able to do all that, and they're professionals, for a reason. So if you get the book,
what I did, which is I heavily negotiated to get to do my own audiobook.
Well, you have the voice.
Yeah, you have a wonderful voice.
I fought for it.
One of the things I've had people tell me, though, is that you want to do it like the same time of day every day when you do it, that your voice is different in the morning, in the evening, and afternoon, and so forth. So think about that when you get time to do that.
I want to go back a little bit to how you wrote this, because you and I haven't talked about this, but I think it'll be interesting to the audience. My instinct, just knowing you well enough to know your written voice and reading this, is that in essence, what this is a text-based, curated AI agent of Dave. And so in the same way that somebody might access an AI agent of Dave in your digital format, this is the curated version that you've really put thought into the output of. But it is your brain trust still translated in there, because you've written so much about this topic.
So every single chapter I wrote first. And I wrote it, years ago. Let's be honest. I mean, I've been working on the content on the mode section for 12 years. My goodness. So artificial intelligence was great to I had like 5 or 6 different chapters that I had written, and I was able to kind of combine all of those chapters together, simplify it a little bit, and then go back and re-edit, make sure that it's actually something that I would have said. If I had written it myself, it would still be in production, and I would have all kinds of angst about every single chapter. So and it felt appropriate because I'm talking about AI and how it creates powers for you. So I felt like this is a great way to do it. And so in the not in the version that you guys got, but in the actual book, I have a section on provenance. And I think books that are generated using AI should always have a section on provenance. And they should talk about the origins of all of the content. All of this is my thinking, but it was great to be able to tap into different tools and technologies. It really speeded things up for me.
And I commend you, Dave, on ideas that are enduring. That the fact that you came up with them years ago and have written about them years ago does not take away one iota from how valuable they are today. And I look forward to discussing with you more on future podcasts.
Yeah, it's a really good point too, to not discount what sustains, but actually to see that as a sign of whether it be some universal truth or just that enduring truth. And that you're really good at your job as an experienced futurist, Dave.
Exactly.
I think that's the problem with being an experienced futurist, is most of the time you're too far ahead for anyone to hear you. But the time is here, my friend. Everybody's wondering about this.
I think people will read my book in 2036. I really do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like the pace of change now is so fast that I don't know. I feel like I have no idea where we're going to be in 2036.
Yeah.
So I know another of your hopes, if we're going to be really bold and honest about what this will do, it's that people who need more will come and work with you at Stone Mantle.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case. I mean, we've built workshops and everything that's we're going to talk about in the book. We've done this actual type of consulting work for all kinds of different companies. They've either been in the collaboratives and they've actually done the work there, or we've done it one-on-one with companies. I think it's hard for the typical reader to understand that these are not topics that we all of a sudden just popped into our minds. We've been working on this thinking since 2015. And now we're kind of to the point where all companies are thinking about the topics that we were focused on at that time. So we feel very ready to help organizations that are starting to jump down this path.
It's great. Yeah. And so many companies right now, because of this pace of change, need someone who can do it for them, and not to disempower their teams, but to empower their teams to keep moving forward independently and confidently. So very much the same as what customers of these AIs are looking for in these LMOs. So with that, go get the book, friends. Early sales on Amazon really matter. So do our friend Dave a solid. Download the book. If you download, it's available there for Kindle, or you can order to print. A copy will come right to your door. And
wow, is that how Amazon works?
Oh, hush. No, I think it's doing print on demand is the reason I mentioned that, right? You're doing print on demand. Yeah, which I just think is kind of a cool thing. But yeah, there's this thing called Amazon, and it comes all the way from the Amazon Joe, just like you. And review the book. Take a second. It is free. It takes 30 seconds, and it makes a world of difference for the life of a book. So Dave has so generously shared so much of his wisdom and experience with all of us. And that's one really great, quick way that you can return the favor, friends. So let's all go out and celebrate this book and put it to good use. Dave, thanks for writing it. And thanks for talking so candidly about the process too. We'll see you all over at the Experienced Strategist over on Substack. Let us know what you think of the book and what things you're working on right now that you think could benefit from rethinking this paradigm. We'll see you there.